Hi guys, and welcome back to the Crochet Tour YouTube channel. In today's video I'm bringing you another new crochet tutorial, and this time it's another Pokemon one. So today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet Piplup, so one of the starters. So yeah, this actually used to be one of my paid patterns on my Etsy account back in 2020 when I used to sell patterns, and I've kind of been gradually releasing all of my paid patterns for free throughout the years, and I just hadn't got around to filming this one yet, but I finally did it this weekend. So a lot of people have been asking for new Pokemon tutorials, so I hope you guys really like this one. And that's really it. The only thing to say about this pattern is one thing that I did in this pattern that I don't normally do in my other patterns is I used some black DK yarn to outline certain parts of this. I don't know how well you can see on camera, but like the eyes and the face and the dots on the body. Now this isn't necessary, so if you don't want to do that you can skip that part, but I did just find that it really pulls everything together and makes the finished product look a little bit more clean, in my opinion, so that's why I decided to do that. But like I say, I don't normally do that in my patterns these days, so if you don't want to do it then feel free to skip that. But yeah, other than that, this is a fairly straightforward pattern, so without further ado, let's get into what you'll be needing for this. For this tutorial you'll be needing aran weight yarn in the following colours: dark blue, light blue, white and yellow. Then you'll also be wanting some black DK yarn, just a small amount of this, or you could use black embroidery thread instead, and this is just going to be to add some outlining to some of the features in this pattern, such as the contrast between the white and the dark blue on the face, then also outlining the eyes and outlining the white circles on the body. And I'm also going to be using this to add lines to the feet as well. It is kind of an optional step, you don't necessarily need this, but it does just help to make the finished product look a bit more better put together and well finished. Then you'll be wanting for the eyes, you'll want some white, black and dark blue felt. Obviously you can crochet the eyes or use a different technique if you would prefer, but this is what I'm going to be using. I'm just going to be cutting shapes out of my felt. Then to go along with that, and also to go along with the black DK yarn that you're going to use for outlining, you're going to need some fabric glue. I've got Fabri-Tac, you can use whatever you have. Then you're going to be obviously needing your crochet hook. I've got a 4mm crochet hook to go with my aran weight yarn, but if you're having to use lighter or heavier weight of yarn, then you can size up or down as required on your crochet hook. You'll be needing some scissors. You'll need your yarn needle to sew things together. You'll also want some pins to pin things in place when you're sewing it down. You'll need a stitch marker. I just use an offcut of yarn for this. And then you'll also need some stuffing. You'll need more than this, but this is just to demonstrate. So now let's get into the tutorial. We're going to crochet the head to start with, so I've got my dark blue yarn. For round 1 we're going to be doing 6 single crochets in a magic circle. So that's round 1. Then for round 2 we're going to increase all the way around, and that should get us up to 12 single crochets at the end of the round. Okay, so at the end of round 2 you should have 12 single crochets all the way around. Just going to talk you through the next few rounds now, as it's just standard increases in increments of 6, and then also some rounds of single crocheting all the way around. So for round 3 you're going to do single crochet increase and repeat 5 more times to get you up to 18 single crochets at the end of the round. Round 4, 2 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 24 single crochets. Round 5, 3 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 30. Round 6, 4 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 36. Round 7, 5 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 42. Round 8, 6 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 48. Then rounds 9 to 18, so 10 rounds in total, just single crochet all the way around, so that should be 48 single crochets in each of rounds 9 to 18. I'll meet you when you're ready to start round 19, as we're going to start doing some decreases, so I'll show you how to do that. So I'm just about to start round 19 now. This is what it's looking like, so hopefully you can kind of see the head starting to take shape. So as I mentioned, in round 19 we're going to start doing some decreases. So we're going to start off by doing 6 single crochets, and I'm going to mark the first single crochet just so that I remember where the round started, so you might want to do the same. And then I'm going to do a decrease, just like this. Okay, and then we're just going to repeat that pattern all the way around. So 6 single crochets and then a decrease. I'll do another one for you now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 single crochets and then a decrease. So if you repeat that all the way around, you should get down to 42 single crochets at the end of round 9. I've just finished round 19 and I'm going to talk you through the remaining decrease rounds until we need to stuff the head. So for round 20 you're going to do 5 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 36 single crochets. Round 21, 4 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 30. Round 22, 3 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 24. Then round 23, 2 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 18. So I'll meet you at that point, as we'll then need to stuff the head, and then there's just a couple more rounds left to do. I completed round 23, and as you can see I've stuffed the head firmly now, so you're going to want to do the same. Now there's just 2 rounds left to do. So for round 24 you're going to do single crochet decrease and repeat 5 more times to get you down to 12 single crochets. Then for round 25 decrease all the way around to get you down to 6. I'll meet you at the end of round 25 and show you how to close up the remaining hole. So I finished round 25. Now we just need to close up this hole remaining, so cut your yarn leaving a little bit of a tail, and then grab your yarn needle, thread it through, and then we're going to go through the front loop of each of the final 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now we can just weave the yarn tail through and snip that to get rid of it. So that is the main head shape complete. Now we're going to move on to making the white bit that we're going to put onto the face and sew it down on top of it. So let's grab our white yarn now. We're now going to start to crochet the white bit that's going to go in the middle of the face. So this is going to be made by firstly making 2 semicircles, which is going to be the kind of eye bits. Then we're going to join them together in a later row, and this is all going to be worked in rows as well. So with your white yarn, you're going to start off by chaining 4. Then starting from the second chain from hook, we're going to work 2 single crochets, and I'm working in the back loops. You can work in the front or the back loops, it doesn't make a massive difference. I just have a preference for working in the back loops when working along a foundation chain. Then in this final chain here, we're going to work 3 single crochets. And then that should bring you to the other side of your foundation chain, so we can now work along the other side of the foundation chain to finish this row off. So we're just going to work 2 single crochets now, and I'm going to crochet over this tail as well to secure it in place. Okay, so that's the end of row 1. You should have 7 single crochets all the way around. Now for row 2, we're going to start by chaining 1, turning our work, then we're going to work 2 single crochets, then 3 increases, so 1, 2, 3, and then finally we're going to work 2 single crochets. So that's row 2 complete. You should have 10 single crochets, and hopefully you're starting to see what I mean about creating this semicircle shape here. Just going to talk you through the next couple of rows, as it's pretty similar to what we just did there in row 2. So for row 3, you're going to chain 1 turn and then do 3 single crochet, 4 increase, 3 single crochet. That should get you up to 14 single crochets. Then for row 4, you're going to chain 1 turn and then do 5 single crochet, 4 increase, 5 single crochet to get you up to 18 at the end of the row. So I'll meet you at the end of row 4. So this is what it should look like at the end of row 4. I'm just going to cut my yarn. Don't worry about leaving a tail for sewing or anything. Just leave a little bit of a tail so that we have something to use to like fasten off and stuff perhaps later on, but I'm just going to leave that tail for now. I'm also going to cut this tail here because I already crocheted over it, so it's already secure. So that's the first semicircle done. Now we just need to repeat rows 1 to 4 all over again, but this time don't cut your yarn, leave your yarn on the hook because we're going to then join the 2 semicircles together in row 5. So yeah, just do rows 1 to 4 again, and I'll meet you when you've done that. Now that we've got both of our semicircles, we're going to start row 5 to join them together as I mentioned before. So you're going to start off by chaining 1. Then you're going to work 8 single crochets along this straight edge here, so just try and work them as evenly across as you can. So that's the 8 single crochets done. Then we're going to chain 4. And then we're going to work 8 single crochets along the straight edge of the other semicircle as well. I'm just going to go for a slightly lower down loop to start with because I haven't actually fastened off that tail, so I want to make sure that it's nice and secure. And then I'm going to work my remaining 7. Okay, so at the end of row 5 you should have your 8 single crochets on each of these bits and then the 4 chain in the middle, so 20 stitches in total. Now for row 6 we're simply going to chain 1, turn and single crochet across, so that'll be 20 single crochets in total. Okay, so at the end of row 6 you should still have 20 single crochets. Now in row 7 we're going to do a couple of decreases, so we're going to start by chaining 1 and turning as always. Then we're going to do a decrease, then 16 single crochets, and then finish off with another decrease. So at the end of row 7 you should now be down to 18 single crochets. I'm just going to talk you through the remaining rows now because it's basically again following the same pattern of what we've already done. So for row 8 you're going to do chain 1, turn, single crochet across, so 18 single crochets. Row 9, chain 1, turn, decrease 14 single crochets, decrease to get you down to 16. Row 10, chain 1, turn, single crochet across. Row 11, chain 1, turn, decrease 12 single crochet, decrease to get you down to 14. Then row 12, chain 1, turn, decrease 10 single crochet, decrease to get you down to 12. So I'll meet you at the end of row 12. So I finished row 12 and this is what it's now looking like. Hopefully you've got something similar. You're going to want to cut your yarn, leaving quite a long tail actually for sewing. So I'd say leave more than maybe you think you're even going to need, because you are going to have to be sewing all the way around this. So that will take up quite a lot of yarn. So I'm just going to leave a fairly long tail for this. And then I'm just going to pull that yarn tail fully through, which will take a second because it's quite long. And then if you want to as well, if you've got this yarn tail as well that you haven't weaved in yet, like I haven't, then you can just do that at this point as well. I'm just gonna neaten this up a little bit. I'll probably just leave it like, actually I might knot this at the back, actually I'm gonna do that now quickly. I'm just gonna knot this. And then this is obviously, like I say, going to be the back piece, so this tail will be hidden at the back anyway, but you could snip that if you wanted to as well at this point. So this is the final piece that we end up with. So we're going to need to pin this to the face before we obviously sew it down, but before we do that we are going to crochet the little light blue bit that goes between the eyes as well. So let's move on to doing that next. So now we're going to crochet the light blue part that's going to go between the eyes. So you're going to start off by chaining 5. Then starting from the second chain from hook, you're just going to single crochet across. So that should be 4 single crochets. And as usual, I'm going to be working in the back loops. I'm also going to crochet over this tail here just to secure it in place. Okay, so you should have 4 single crochets at the end of row 1. Then for row 2, we're going to chain 1, turn, and just work 4 single crochets across. So at the end of row 2 you should still have 4 single crochets. For row 3 we're going to chain 1 and turn. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 single crochets. Then we're going to do another single crochet that's going to go across both this stitch, this single crochet here, and the one next to it. It's kind of going to be like a decrease, but obviously because we're single crocheting in this stitch as well, and we're going to do a single crochet in this stitch as well, it's not actually going to decrease anything, but it's just going to be a way for us to add in an additional stitch in the middle of our work rather than adding an increase specifically in this stitch or in this one. So this is what I'm going to do, just exactly like we were doing a decrease. like that. Then you're going to work another single crochet into this third stitch here, and then finally a single crochet into the last stitch here. So at the end of row 3 you should have 5 single crochets. Now we're on to the final row, which is row 4. So again, chain 1, turn. We're going to start by doing a half double crochet, so by that you're just going to yarn over and then go through the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook like that. Then we're going to just do a slip stitch into the next stitch. Then we're going to do 2 double crochets into the next stitch, so yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2, and just do that again in the same stitch. Then we're going to do a slip stitch in the next stitch, and then we're going to finish off with a half double crochet in the last stitch. So that's that finished. Then just cut your yarn again, leaving quite a long tail because you are going to need to sew all the way around this piece to sew it down to the face. And if you've crocheted over this tail here, you could also cut this at this point as well. So now what we need to do is we're going to pin both of these pieces to the face like that, and we're going to sew down the light blue piece first, and then we're going to sew down the white piece. So let's move on to that next. So I've pinned down both the white and light blue pieces like this, just to make sure that I'd be happy with the positioning of both of these. But actually what I'm going to do is, so that I can get the white out of the way and I can sew down the light blue bit first, I'm just going to remove this for now, and then I'll put it back, pin it back in place once I've sewn down the blue bit. So now what I'm going to do is just grab my yarn needle, and I'm just going to start whip stitching to sew this down. Okay, so hopefully you get the idea. I'm just going to do that all the way around. I've nearly finished sewing all the way down, but I just wanted to show you this last bit where I'm sewing this part at the top. I'm actually going to not do a whip stitch, I'm going to do a running stitch instead, and this is because I think it might help keep the shape a little bit better in terms of the up and down that we want it to show. So I'm just going to go through a nearby light blue loop, and then back out through, through a nearby dark blue loop, and then back out through a light blue loop, then into the next light blue, and then through the dark blue. I'm just going to repeat that until I've finished completely sewing this down. Okay, so that's now fully sewn down, so I can remove any remaining pins. Now I'm going to pin the white piece back onto this with this bit in the middle, and I'm going to sew the white piece down. So I've pinned the white part back down again, and now I'm going to just start sewing this down. So I am going to be whip stitching all the way around for this. I'm just going to start at the bottom and just sew it all the way around. Okay, so that's going to take a little while, so I'll meet you when I've sewn all the way around. I finished sewing down the white part now, so this is what it looks like. I'm just going to weave the yarn tail through a little bit and then cut that. And I'll do the same thing with the light blue tail as well, so we can get rid of that. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to cutting the eyes out of our felt. I'm going to start off by cutting out a larger oval out of my dark blue felt. So I'm just going to freehand this. Okay, so that's the rough shape. I'm just going to check. I think that might be a little bit on the big side. I might just want to make that a little bit smaller. That might be more like it. Okay, so that's the first oval. Then I'm going to get my black and white yarn felt and do the smaller circles for the inside of the eye. So I've got my black felt. I'm actually going to do an oval shape, a bit of an oval, so not quite a circle. Something like that. And then I'm just going to check that that's the right sort of size that I was looking for. It's a little too big, so I'm just going to try and trim that down. Okay, I think that's more like it. Now I just need to do a white circle to go above that. So I'm just going to do a smaller white circle. Yep, I think I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to use the shapes that I've already cut out and use that as a template to cut round again so that I've got two eyes like this. So I'll meet you when I finish that. I've used my fabric glue to glue down the small black and white dots to the dark blue dots, so that these are now ready to be glued onto the face. So basically I'm just going to glue them in this sort of position here, like this, on either side. So yeah, I'm just going to do that now. It's not going to be very exciting. I'm literally just going to use my fabric glue and glue those down. I've now glued the eyes down. This next step is optional, but I'm going to be outlining now the face. So I'm going to outline all the way around the white bit and also this bit here. And then I'm going to be outlining around the eyes as well with some black DK yarn. So I've just put this on my yarn needle. I'm going to start off by sort of going in through the bottom because that bit's going to be hidden because we're going to be sewing the body down there. Then I'm just going to bring my yarn out like this, leave a little bit of black tail here so that we can knot that later. And then literally what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my glue and I'm just going to start putting a little bit of glue around the outside like this. And then I'm going to be getting my black yarn and just pressing that into the glue like this so that I can outline the face. And I'm just going to do this all the way around, so I'm going to be using my glue to glue it down, and I'll show you when I finish the face and then I'll do the eyes as well. So I've now lined around the main edges of the face. I just need to do this bit up here and then also the eyes now as well. So I'm just going to bring my yarn through to the nearest eye. And I'm going to do the exact same thing again. I'm just going to use my glue and glue around the eye and then press the black yarn into that. So just like that, and then I'll just bring my yarn tail through up here, do this bit here, and then do the exact same thing on the other eye. So I'll meet you when I've finished that. I've outlined both of the eyes now, and I've done this little bit up here, so that's all finished. I just brought my yarn tail out through here, and I'm just going to cut this now. And you can, like I say, knot this at the bottom as well, because we're going to be sewing the body to this part, so you won't actually see this. So just like that, and then maybe one more knot, and that should do it. Okay, so now we're going to move on to crocheting the beak, so you're going to need your yellow yarn for this. We're going to make the beak in two parts, so we're going to start off by doing the top beak. So with your yellow yarn, do 4 single crochets in a magic circle for round 1. Then for round 2, we're just going to increase all the way around, and that will get us up to 8 single crochets. Okay, so at the end of round 2 you should have your 8 single crochets. So I'm just going to talk you through the remaining 2 rounds. So for round 3 you're going to do single crochet, increase and repeat 3 more times to get you up to 12 single crochets. Then for round 4, single crochet all the way around, so I'll meet you at the end of round 4. So this is what it's looking like at the end of round 4. I'm now just going to do 6 slip stitches across the top of the beak to close off the top part of it. So just like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'm just going to cut my yarn, leaving a tail for sewing. Okay, so this is what the top beak looks like, and we're going to sew this to the middle of the face. I'm just going to start sewing this down now. I'm going to whip stitch to do so. You can pin it down if you want to, but because it's a small piece I can just use my hand to kind of hold it in place, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so that's nearly sewn down. Just gonna do one more. Okay, so that's now sewn down. I'm just going to weave my yarn tail through the beak and we can cut that. I'll probably just cut that in a second. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the bottom beak, so let's do that next. I've skipped ahead and crocheted the bottom beak because it's pretty similar to what we did for the top beak, it's just a little bit smaller. So for round 1 you're going to do 4 single crochets in a magic circle, round 2 increase all the way around to get you up to 8, round 3 single crochet increase and repeat that once more to get you up to 10 single crochets, then round 4 single crochet all the way around and then do 5 slip stitches across the top to close. So once you've done that, just cut your yarn leaving a tail for sewing, and let's now sew this underneath the top beak. So I'm going to whip stitch around to sew this down similar to what I did for the top beak. Okay, let's see how that looks. Yep, I think that looks good, so I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm going to weave my yarn tail through the bottom beak and then I can cut both of these tails now. Okay, so now we're going to move on to crocheting the body, so you're going to need your light blue yarn for this. So for the body we're going to start off by doing 6 single crochets in a magic circle. Then for round 2 we're simply going to increase all the way around to get us up to 12. Okay, so at the end of round 2 you should have your 12 single crochets all the way around. I'm just going to talk you through the remaining rounds for the body because it's pretty similar to the head, except we don't quite make it as big as we do the head. So for round 3 you're going to do single crochet increase and repeat 5 more times to get you up to 18 single crochets. Round 4, 2 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 24. Round 5, 3 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 30. Round 6, 4 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 36. Round 7 to 15, so 9 rounds in total, single crochet all the way around. Round 16, 4 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 30 single crochets. Round 17, 3 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 24. Then round 18, 2 single crochet decrease and repeat 5 more times to get you down to 18. I'll meet you at the end of round 18 as we then need to stuff the body. So I've finished crocheting the body. This is what it looks like. I'm just going to cut my yarn now, leaving a fairly long tail because we're going to want to sew this to the head, and you may need to sew around twice depending on how stable it feels after you've sewn around once, so it's probably better to leave a slightly longer tail here. Cool, so that's the body finished. Now I'm going to sew the body to the head, so just position it however you want. Again, you can use pins if you want, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to hold it in place with my hands like this, and I'm just going to be whip stitching around to sew this down. Okay, so I'm just going to do that all the way around, and then I'll decide whether I need to sew down one more time or if just once is enough. I finished sewing the body all the way around. I actually have found that sewing it once is fairly stable. You can see that even me moving this is not really flopping about too much, so I'm happy with that. I'm just going to leave it at sewing round once, but if yours needs to go again, then feel free to sew round another time just for additional stability. But now I'm just going to weave my yarn tail through the body and then cut it. Okay, so now we're going to move on to making the 2 white spots that are going to go on the body. So this is what one of the dots looks like. We need to make 2 of these. So for rounds 1 to 2, it's just the same as what we've done for the head and the body. So 6 single crochets in a magic circle for round 1, then increase all the way around for round 2. But I'll meet you when you've finished round 2, because then I'll show you how to finish this off in a neat way so that you can't tell where the round ended. So once you finish round 2, you're just going to want to cut your yarn, leaving a tail long enough for sewing. Then pull your yarn tail through, and we're going to finish off with a fake single crochet to make this look a bit neater. So if you turn your work, skip the next stitch, go into the one after that, into both loops, pull your yarn tail through, then go back to that final single crochet of round 2 into the closest loop to us currently, so this one here, and then just pull that yarn tail through again. And as you can see, that's created this fake single crochet on top of the real single crochet, but it makes it harder to tell where the round ended. So when you've got 2 circles like this, come back and we'll sew them to the body. I've pinned both of the dots down to the middle of the body, and now I'm just going to whip stitch all the way around to sew them down. It doesn't have to be the neatest, because we're going to use some black yarn to outline the dots as well, like we did with the face and the eyes. So I'm just going to go all the way around like this. I'm going to do that on both dots, so I'll meet you when I've finished that. This is what it looks like once both the dots have been sewn down. I'm just going to use the same technique as I did before to outline around the dots with my black yarn, so just bringing it out, and then I'm just going to put some glue down and bring it all the way around this dot, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So I won't show you that again because I've already shown you that a couple of times for the head, but yeah, I'm just going to glue around each dot and then press the black yarn into that. I finished outlining the dots. This is what it looks like. Now we're going to move on to making the wings, so you're going to need your light blue yarn again for this. I've already gone ahead and made one of the wings. This is what we're aiming for. So we're going to start off in round 1 by doing 4 single crochets in a magic circle. Then for round 2 we're going to do single crochet increase, single crochet increase, and that's going to get us up to 6 at the end of the round. Okay, so at the end of round 2 you should have your 6 single crochets. I'm just going to talk you through the remaining rounds now. So for round 3 you're going to single crochet all the way around. Round 4, single crochet 2 increase, single crochet 2 increase to get you up to 10 single crochets. Then rounds 5 to 11, single crochet all the way around. I'll meet you at the end of round 11. I finished round 11, now I'm just going to do 5 slip stitches across the top to close. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then just cut your yarn, leaving a tail for sewing. So once you've got 2 wings, come back and I'll show you how to sew them to the body. I'm just going to start sewing one of the wings with you now. So I'm just going to do one obviously either side of the body. I'm going to whip stitch along the top of the wing first. Okay, so that's that sewn down at the top. Then I'm going to sew down a couple of stitches at the back and a couple of additional stitches at the front as well. So then I'm going to come back to the front and do a couple of additional stitches here. Just like that. Then you can just weave the yarn tail through to the back and we can cut that. So that's one of the wings. I'm going to do the other one the exact same on the other side. The wings are now fully sewn down. This is what it's looking like. We're next going to move on to making the legs and the feet. So that's made by making 2 little light blue stumps, and then there's going to be 2 yellow feet that we're going to attach to those and then sew to the body. So let's start by making the light blue stumps. I've gone ahead and made the 2 leg stumps because they're really simple. All you're going to do is for round 1, 6 single crochets in a magic circle, then rounds 2 to 3 single crochet all the way around, then just cut your yarn leaving a tail for sewing and make 2 of these. So that's these. Now we're going to move on to making the feet with our yellow yarn. So I've gone ahead and made the feet as well because they're also very simple to make. So you're just going to do for round 1, 6 single crochets in a magic circle, then for rounds 2 to 5 single crochet all the way around, then just work 3 slip stitches across the top to close off the feet and make 2 of these. So once you've got 2 of these and 2 of these, we're now going to sew these together like this, and then we can sew the feet to the body. To sew the yellow bit to the light blue bit, I'm just going to firstly bring my yarn about 1 stitch inwards, so kind of here, and then I'm going to start just feeding this through into the leg like this. I'm just going to do that a few times, and I'm going to come back out through the bottom of the foot, then through here, and then one more probably. Just like that. And then I can weave my yellow yarn tail through the bottom of the foot and then cut that. And you're just going to want to do that with both of the feet, so you've got something that looks like this. One other thing I'm going to do at this point is add a couple of lines onto each foot, just for the kind of toes, I guess. So I'm just going to use my black DK yarn for this again. So just something like that, and then you can, if you want to, weave the black yarn into the inside of the stumps that you can tie the two black tails together to secure them on the inside. So like that. Then you can just cut any excess. And you use your crochet hook to just push that inside the leg like that. So then you should have your 2 feet, and these are ready now to be sewn to the body. I've already sewn down one of the feet. I'm going to do the other one with you now. So just try and position it so that it's as symmetrical as possible with the other side. Sorry, this is a bit of an awkward angle for me to film, but I'm going to try my best. So I'm just going to be whip stitching around to sew this down in exactly the same way as I have done sewing down a few of the other bits in this tutorial. And I'm not going to stuff this stump bit. You can if you want to, but because it's so small, I find it doesn't really need any stuffing. Okay, so that's what it looks like when it's been sewn down. Then you can just weave the yarn tail through the body and snip it like we have done previously. So that's both the legs sewn down. The next thing that we're going to do is make the little blue collar bit, so we need our dark blue yarn for this again. So I've made one of the collar pieces. We need to make 2 exactly the same, so let's move on and make the other one together now. So for this we're going to be crocheting around a foundation chain. So we're going to be crocheting in rounds, but like I say, we're going to start off by doing a foundation chain. So we're going to start off by chaining 5. Then starting from the second chain from hook, we're going to work 3 single crochets. Then in the final chain we're going to do 3 single crochets into the same chain, so 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to crochet over the tail as well to secure that in place. Now we're going to work 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and then in that final stitch we're going to work 2 single crochets into the same stitch, 1, 2. So at the end of round 1 you should have 10 single crochets. For round 2 we're going to do an increase to start with, then 2 single crochets, then 3 increases, finding it hard to get into both loops of this stitch. There we go. Then 2 single crochets, and then 2 increases. So at the end of round 2 you should have 16 single crochets now. Now for rounds 3 to 4 you're just going to single crochet all the way around, so I'll meet you at the end of round 4. I've completed round 4 and now we're just going to do 8 slip stitches to close along the top. Then just cut your yarn, leaving a tail for sewing, and come back once you've got 2 of these and I'll show you how to sew these to the front of the body. So I've sewn down one of the collar pieces, I'm going to do the other one with you now. Just going to whip stitch along the top to sew it down. I'm just literally going to do that all the way along the top, so I won't bore you with showing you that because you've seen me whip stitching quite a lot in this tutorial already, so I'll meet you when I've sewn that down. I've sewn down the collar pieces now, so this is what it's looking like. We're nearly finished, we just need to crochet a few more pieces to go on the back, so we're going to need our dark blue yarn for that. I've skipped ahead and made the cape because the first 2 rounds are exactly the same as what we did for the collar, and then the remaining rounds are pretty simple. So just to remind you, for round 1 you're going to do chain 5, then do 3 single crochets starting from second chain from hook, then 3 single crochets into the final chain, then working around the other side of the foundation chain do 2 single crochets and then an increase into the final stitch. That should get you up to 10 at the end of round 1. Then round 2 do increase, 2 single crochets, 3 increases, 2 single crochets, 2 increases to get you up to 16. Then round 3 do increase, 4 single crochet, 4 increases, 4 single crochet, 3 increases to get you up to 24. Then rounds 4 to 13 single crochet all the way around, so that's 10 rounds in total. Then at the end of round 13 just do an additional 3 single crochets, that's just to get you into the right position to then do the final 12 slip stitches across the top to close this item off, and then cut your yarn, leaving a tail for sewing. So that is the back sort of cape piece. To the cape piece we're going to be attaching a couple of spikes. This is the larger spike, and again I've just gone ahead and made it because it's very simple. For round 1 you're going to do 6 single crochets in a magic circle, then for rounds 2 to 3 just single crochet all the way around, then cut your yarn, leaving a tail for sewing. So once you've got that, come back and I'll show you how to sew this to the cape. So to sew this down I'm just going to whip stitch all the way around, and I'm going to be sewing this to the bottom of the cape in the middle. Just going all the way around. Whip stitching like this. I'm not going to stuff it either because it's so small. I don't feel like it needs stuffing, but you can if you want to. Okay, so you should end up with something like this. Then I'll just do one final stitch and then weave my yarn tail through to the back of the cape where I can then cut it like that. Now we're going to add another spike on top of that. So this is what the smaller spike's going to look like. You're going to do 4 single crochets in a magic circle for round 1, then for rounds 2 to 3 just single crochet all the way around, cut your yarn leaving a tail for sewing, and come back here and let's sew this above the other spike. So I'm just going to sew this down again by whip stitching all the way around. Okay, and then I'm just going to weave again that yarn tail through to the back where I can then cut that. So you should have something that looks like this once you've sewn down both of the spikes to the cape. So the final step is just to sew this cape to the back of Piplup. I'm just going to be sewing along the top to sew this down, but you could sew it all the way around if you wanted to, but I want it to be able to move up and down if I want to, so I'm just going to sew the top. So I'm going to start just whip stitching the same way as I did for the collar basically, so just whip stitching all the way along like this. So I'll meet you when I finished that. Finished sewing the cape down and this is what it looks like. Again, as I mentioned, I didn't sew it fully down so that I could still move it up and down a little bit, but if you wanted to you could sew it all the way around if you want. So that's the end of the tutorial. I'm just going to show you a finished view of Piplup. So this is what my finished Piplup looks like, and from the back. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I hope yours turned out well as well, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys!